When most people think of Cambodia, one name towers above the rest: Angkor Wat, the world's largest religious monument, a symbol of national pride and a magnet for millions of tourists. But what if I told you that Angkor Wat is just the beginning? Scattered across the Cambodian jungle, beyond the tourist trails, lie forgotten temples, each with its own myth, its own architecture, its own silent secrets. Some are being devoured by the forest. Others sit quietly beside sacred rivers. A few resemble pyramids, more fitting for Central America than Southeast Asia. These are not just ruins. They are windows into another world, one of powerful kings, sacred geometry, cosmic symbolism, and ancient spiritual healing. Why were they abandoned? Who carved the riverbeds with 1,000 symbols? What stories are hidden in their crumbling stone faces? In this video, we'll take you on a journey through Cambodia's most mysterious temples, from the cinematic ruins of Ta Prohm to the jungle pyramid of Koh Ker, the healing waters of Neak Pean, and beyond. No crowds, no selfie sticks, just ancient stones, whispered legends, and the feeling that you're walking through a forgotten chapter of human history. This is not Angkor Wat. This is something older, stranger. Let's begin, deep in the heart of Cambodia's ancient jungle, where the air is thick with mist, and time feels like it's standing still, lies a temple caught between two worlds, one of man and one of nature. This is Ta Prohm. Unlike Angkor Wat, with its restored towers and sweeping causeways, Ta Prohm was left largely untouched, intentionally. The decision was made to preserve it as it was found, tangled in roots, overrun by vines slowly being pulled back into the jungle. And because of that, it has become one of the most hauntingly beautiful places in the world. At first glance, you might think the forest is winning. Giant silk cotton trees grow directly from temple roofs, their gnarled roots splitting sandstone walls like knives through cloth. Doorways lean, corridors collapse, and statues of forgotten deities peek out from curtains of moss and shadow. But there's something sacred about this collapse. It's not destruction, it's a kind of rebirth. Ta Prohm was built in the 12th century by the Khmer king Jayavarman Nayavast, one of the greatest rulers in Cambodian history. He dedicated the temple to his mother, and he filled it with life, not just prayers and incense, but people. According to inscriptions found at the site, over 12,000 individuals lived and worked here. 600 dancers, hundreds of monks, scores of cooks, guards, musicians, and healers. Ta Prohm was a city, a sanctuary, a school, all in one. And then, like so much of the Khmer Empire, it was abandoned. The forest moved in, the stones began to sink, and slowly the jungle closed its leafy fingers around the walls. When French explorers rediscovered the site in the 19th century, they were stunned by what they saw. Not just ruins, but a vision. A vision of what happens when man builds something great, and then lets it go. Today, Ta Prohm is one of the most photographed temples in Cambodia, partly because of its mystical beauty, and partly because of a film. Tomb Raider, the 2001 movie starring Angelina Jolie, was filmed here, and the temple's tangled walls became famous worldwide. But even before Hollywood arrived, the temple had a story. You can feel it in the silence, in the soft hum of insects, in the wind as it snakes through the collapsed galleries, in the way the tree roots hold the stone like ancient hands refusing to let go. Ta Prohm is not just a temple lost to time. It is a place where time itself seems to hesitate. not quite ruined, not quite living, but something in between. There's a place far beyond the crowded paths of Angkor, where the jungle grows thicker, the roads turn to dust, and silence begins to settle in. A place almost no one visits, yet once it was the beating heart of an empire. This is Koh Ker. For a brief moment in history, just 20 years, Koh Ker became the capital of the Khmer Empire. It was the year 928 when King Jayavarman IV broke away from the royal court in Angkor and declared this remote jungle as his new seat of power. Why he moved the capital remains a mystery. Was it political ambition, a family feud, a religious vision? Whatever the reason, what he left behind was extraordinary. More than 40 temples were constructed here, scattered across the dense forest like forgotten bones. But one monument stands above them all, Prasat Tom, a 7-tiered sandstone pyramid rising like a stairway to the gods, stark, geometric, almost alien. It doesn't look Khmer. In fact, it looks more like something out of Central America or Egypt. Some call it Cambodia's only true pyramid. Its shape mirrors Mount Meru, the sacred cosmic mountain of Hindu and Buddhist mythology, the axis of the universe. And at the very top once stood a massive lingam, a symbol of divine power and creation. Imagine climbing those steep, narrow steps, jungle on all sides, no sound but your breath and the hum of unseen insects. And then, reaching the summit, looking out over an endless green sea of trees. That view hasn't changed in 1,000 years, but Koh Ker holds more than just beauty. It holds questions. After Jayavarman Shior's death, the capital mysteriously returned to Angkor. The temples were left behind. The jungle took over, and Koh Ker disappeared from memory. For centuries it was barely more than a whisper. Some believe it was cursed. Others say it was sacred, too powerful to remain in mortal hands. Even today, many of its structures remain unrestored. Visitors must tread carefully, not because of traps or legends, but because the past here feels close, like it's still watching. Koh Ker is not just a ruin. It is a phantom capital, a forgotten crown, waiting beneath the trees, long before Angkor Wat rose from the plains, before Prohm was wrapped in roots. There was a temple on a hill, standing alone, watching the centuries unfold. This is Phnom Ba Keng, built in the late 9th century by Yasovarman Hruz. Phnom Ba Keng was the first state temple of a new capital, the city of Yasodharapura, the forerunner of Angkor. The king didn't build on flat land. He chose a sacred hill. From up here, you could see everything: the rice fields, the jungle, the Tonle Sap Lake in the distance. But the height was more than practical. It was symbolic. The temple was meant to represent Mount Meru, the cosmic mountain at the center of the universe. The 5 towers at the summit mirrored the 5 peaks of Meru: the terraces, the stairways, the layers of stone, all encoded with celestial meaning. This wasn't just architecture, it was cosmology. It's said that Phnom Ba Keng once had 108 towers, a sacred number in Hindu and Buddhist beliefs. And some scholars suggest the entire temple aligned with the sun, moon, and stars, like a stone calendar that marked the heavens. To climb Phnom Ba Keng at sunset is to walk through layers of forgotten time. The steps are steep, the air grows thinner, the jungle hums below, and at the top, the towers stand like ancient guardians, silhouetted against the sky. Today, tourists gather here to watch the sunset over Angkor Wat, unaware that the very hill they stand on was once the center of an empire's universe. But Phnom Penh holds deeper mysteries. Beneath the main temple lie hidden chambers. Some say these underground sanctuaries once stored treasures. Others believe they housed relics too sacred for the world above. Monks whisper of energy points, of spiritual intersections between the material and the divine. Whether myth or memory, the power of this place is real. You can feel it in the stillness of the stones, in the warmth of the wind, in the way time slows when you stand at the summit. Phnom Penh is more than a temple. It is a mountain of meaning, a stairway between earth and sky, a silent witness to the rise of kings and the fall of empires. Deep in the Kulin Mountains, beyond the temple walls and the stone towers, there flows a river. At first glance it looks ordinary. Clear water running over smooth rocks, shaded by dense trees, birds calling from high above. But look closer. Beneath the water, the stones are not just stones. They are covered in sacred carvings, hundreds, thousands of them. Lingas, symbols of divine energy, fertility, and creation. Welcome to Kbal Spean, the river of 1,000 lingas. Unlike the grand temples of Angkor, Kbal Spean is not a monument of bricks and towers. It is a temple of water, of flow, of nature touched by spirit. The carvings here were made directly into the riverbed, sculpted by hand in the 11th and 12th centuries by Khmer artisans, not for glory, but for blessing. They believed the river carried sacred water downstream, toward the city of Angkor, and by carving these symbols into the stones, they were purifying the flow, infusing it with spiritual power. Alongside the lingas, you'll find carvings of Hindu deities, Vishnu reclining on the serpent Ananta, Shiva and Uma, Lakshmi, the goddess of abundance. Their images lie beneath the current, half hidden, half revealed, like visions caught between worlds. During the rainy season, the river swells, and the carvings vanish beneath the rushing water. In the dry season, they reappear, shimmering under the sun. The entire site feels alive, not because of crowds, there are few here, but because the water moves, and sings, and remembers. The hike to reach Kbal Spean is not easy. A winding trail through forest and rock, alive with butterflies, monkeys, and the rustle of unseen things. But when you arrive, the silence welcomes you. Not the silence of emptiness, but of reverence. This was not a place built to be seen. It was built to be felt. As you dip your hand into the cool stream, you're touching the same water the ancient kings once drank, the same stream that once nourished a civilization, the same river that still whispers prayers in the language of stone. Kbal Spean is not a ruin. It is a sacred breath, carved into the pulse of the earth, and carried away by the current. In the middle of a still, sacred pond, on an island shaped like a lotus flower, stands a temple that floats between myth and medicine. This is Neak Pean, one of the most mysterious and spiritual sites in Cambodia. Unlike other temples of the Khmer Empire, Neak Pean was not built for kings. It was built for healing. Constructed in the 12th century under King Jayavarman VII, the same compassionate ruler who built Ta Prohm, Neak Pean was designed as an ancient hospital, rooted in both spiritual symbolism and early medical science. The temple sits at the center of a large square pool. Around it are 4 smaller pools, each representing one of the 4 elements: earth, water, fire, wind. In traditional healing practices, balance among these elements was essential. Visitors would bathe in these pools, not simply to cleanse their bodies, but to restore harmony within. It was believed that each pool could heal a different type of ailment, not through magic, but through the sacred order of nature. And at the heart of it all stood the sanctuary tower, guarded by two serpents, coiled and intertwined, facing opposite directions. These are the Nagas, divine water spirits, symbols of protection, flow, and transformation. The name Neak Pean itself means entwined serpents. Water enters the central pond through a hidden channel, and from there flows outward, feeding each of the four elemental basins. The design is geometric, but the experience is poetic. On quiet mornings, mist drifts over the surface of the pond. The temple reflects perfectly in the water, creating the illusion of a world both above and below. In those moments, it feels like you're not just visiting a temple, but stepping into a dream, suspended in space, weightless, timeless. The walk to Neak Pean is a journey in itself. A long wooden bridge stretches across the Beret, a man-made reservoir once believed to represent the cosmic ocean. As you walk, lotus leaves sway gently on either side. Dragonflies dance in the air, and everything grows still. Neak Pean doesn't rise high. It doesn't dazzle with carvings or towering spires. Its power lies in stillness, in reflection, in the belief that healing is possible when body, mind, and universe are in balance. It is a quiet miracle, floating on water, born of faith, and still breathing. Far from the roads that tourists take, beyond rice fields, dust trails, and sleepy villages, lies a temple almost no one visits. And yet, it is one of the largest, most ambitious monuments of the Khmer Empire. This is Banteay Chhmar, the forgotten city carved in stone. Built in the late 12th or early 13th century by Jayavarman Sasarvath, yes, the same visionary king behind Prohm and Neak Pean. Banteay Chhmar was dedicated not to himself, but to his son, a prince who died in battle. A father's grief transformed into towers, galleries, and moats. The name means the citadel of the cat, though no one knows why. What we do know is that this was no ordinary temple. It spans nearly 1 square kilometer, with intricate galleries, outer walls, and corner towers. But the real wonder lies in the carvings. Endless stone reliefs, stretching across walls like sacred storybooks. They depict scenes of war and peace, royal processions, celestial beings, and a face, a serene, all-seeing face, repeated again and again. This is Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. At Banteay Chhmar, his image appears not once, not twice, but dozens of times, carved into towers and sanctuaries, watching in every direction. It mirrors the famous Bayon temple at Angkor Wat. And yet, in this quiet place, the faces seem more ghostly, as if they've been waiting, for centuries, to be seen again. But Banteay Chhmar didn't just fall into obscurity. It was abandoned, then plundered. In the 1990s, looters came with chainsaws. They cut entire sections of bas-reliefs from the walls, selling them on black markets around the world. Today, some of these stolen panels are scattered in museums, fragments of a story torn apart. And yet, the temple stands, quiet, cracked, partially reclaimed by the forest. Walking through it feels like stepping into a dream or an afterlife. The trees whisper, the shadows stretch, and time seems confused, There are no crowds, no guides, no signs, just stone and silence. Banteay Chhmar isn't just remote. It's invisible, lost in the folds of history. And maybe that's why it feels so sacred, a place not preserved by man, but by memory itself. If Angkor Wat is Cambodia's crown, then Banteay Chhmar is its buried heart. We began this journey in the shadow of Angkor Wat, but somewhere along the way, we left the shadows behind. We walked beneath trees that have become walls, climbed pyramids that pierce the sky, touched water that remembers gods, and now, standing here in the hush of Cambodia's hidden temples, we begin to understand. This story was never just about architecture. It was about memory, about the way stone holds silence, and silence holds truth. The temples beyond Angkor, Ta Prohm, Koh Ker, Phnom Bakheng, Kbal Spean, Neak Pean, Banteay Chhmar. Each is a fragment of something greater, a civilization not simply lost, but deliberately quiet. These places were never meant to shout. They whisper. They whisper of kings who healed instead of conquered, of architects who carved prayers into rivers, of beliefs that saw the universe not as chaos, but as a sacred design. Cambodia's forgotten temples remind us that history is not always in textbooks. Sometimes it lives in moss, in a carving half erased by rain, in the footsteps of a lone monk sweeping the courtyard at dawn. And sometimes the past doesn't need to be explained. It just needs to be felt. When you walk these ruins, you're not just a tourist. You are a witness, a pilgrim, a keeper of quiet things. There's a strange beauty in the way these temples crumble, not as failures, but as offerings. Their collapse is a kind of surrender, a return to the earth, a soft bow before time. Perhaps that's the real legacy of the Khmer Empire, not just its power or its scale, but its willingness to be forgotten, and in that forgetting, it became eternal. So the next time you hear the name Angkor Wat, remember, it is not alone. 1,000 temples sleep in the jungle, waiting, not to be worshipped, not to be restored, but simply to be seen. Angkor Wat may be the crown jewel, but Cambodia's heart beats deep in the shadows of its lesser-known temples. Like, subscribe, and let us know which mysterious site you'd explore first. Until next time, keep seeking the secrets of the past.